And we're live.
That looks
All
good.
right. What's up, everybody? I'd like to welcome you all back to the Real Talk with Real Estate Investor Show. We've got a great guest in store for you guys today. He is an entrepreneur, business owner, real estate investor, real estate lender, and man, a true pro when it comes to real estate. Keith Baker, I'd like to welcome you to the show. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for having me, man. This is an honor.
Awesome, man. Well, we're glad to have you here today, man. Definitely looking forward to you really dropping some bombs on this audience today. You know, we've got about 17,000 folks here that are definitely eager to learn, eager to get some tips and some secrets and some things up your sleeve that have made you successful. And so, man, we're just looking forward to you bringing the fire today. With that being said, man, I'd really like to kind of take a deep dive right on into it and kind of take us down a journey down memory lane on how all of this got started with Keith Baker.
Well, I inherited everything from my parents. No, that's a joke.
Nice.
No, born and raised in the suburbs of Sugar Land, Texas, just outside of Houston. And my dad was in the oil field, told me never go into the oil field. I remember back in about 1980, he sat on the couch for about a year. His background was he's a chemist, but there were no jobs. So he ended up taking a job as a recruiter to help other people find work until a chemistry job came along, and he could go back into working in the upstream. So I was, I was very fortunate that my parents gave me a lot of freedom to try things. They wanted me to explore and do different things, which I really didn't do. But one cool thing is, was that?
No, I was laughing.
Oh, sorry. So I've always said that I'm the perfect poster child for middle class, because my dad's grandfather was a medical doctor in Southern Oklahoma, and my mom's dad and mom both were children of sharecroppers. So one had, one didn't. So I'm right in the middle. But I was fortunate enough that both sides of the family had a pretty intense work ethic. So, in the summers when I was young, my dad would wake me up at 4:00 in the morning. We'd drive for hours to go to some oil field so he could take samples of and work through the chemical stuff, because there was no babysitter. And yet then on Saturday, he was waking me up early to go to the auto parts store to, so we could change a valve cover gasket because the mechanic wanted $150,
Nice.
So, my dad was very handy. My mom came from that, so kind of do for yourself mentality. But they also, being children of born during the Great Depression, education was the only way to succeed. So my mom's dad moved and bought a house within walking distance from Sam Houston State University, just so that his children wouldn't have an excuse not to go to college.
Sure.
You can walk to it. So that was kind of my background. And then as I got older, I got into things very much on the. I'm just like a year and a half older than Gary Vaynerchuk, so I got into baseball cards right around kind of the same time. But
you and me both, man. I was a huge avid baseball, football, basketball collector. I still have probably, no doubt, 30 or 40,000 cards just in boxes. Yeah, all in storage, man. Man, that was a big deal for me, man. There's no better excitement than opening that little card and looking for that
pack, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I sold or gave away. I'm down to, I have an 87 Fleer complete set, and then I've got a couple of all-stars, and then the rest are really just commons that common cards I threw in the back. But when I growing up in Houston, there's always baseball card shows coming to the Astro Hall or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I grew up, I watched Nolan Ryan, Mike Scott, Billy Hatcher, Kevin Bass, Jose
the good
Cruz,
old days.
Billy Doran. Anyway, so hey, Pop, can I have a couple of bucks? I want to go to the baseball card show. My dad was like, no, go earn it. Pissed me off. So all that taught me to do is just go to my mom, put the puppy dog eyes on mom, and she'd give me $2 or $3. I can go to the show, have a Coke. I couldn't get any autographs, but I could, I could go a little bit.
Still fun. Go and drool over some cards for sure.
And Dad was like, look, you want something, go get it. And Mom, for the most part, was like, yeah, your dad's being a little harsh, but I'll give you a little taste. So, then I started mowing yards, all that stuff. But a guy moved in across the street a few years older than me, and we just started painting houses. He did it on the side, and then took what my dad knew, and so that was like on weekends when I wasn't in school, or junior high and high school, I'd paint houses or do whatever. But it like I said, with the 80s and oil not being great, I pursued education rather than what was really in my heart, which at the time was, let's call it just entrepreneurship. Around the same time, I was introduced to Sam's Club, and I would buy the big buckets of bubble gum, individually wrapped, that you get like at the barbershop, and take them to school and sell them for $0.05 a piece. Right.
Nice.
And yeah, it was my little hustle, and I never got in trouble for it. In fact, the one thing I got in trouble for was I would take your tray back to the lunch line, to put it up for the change that was left on it. 10 or 15 cents, whatever. I mean, I'm really dating myself now with this.
I'm right there with you.
That was just kind of, my hustle. But by the time I wasn't going to go to college. I thought I was just going to work in a warehouse. But after, my mom was the first in her family to go to college and to graduate. So I figured, okay, education is going to be my, way out. So I kind of gave up the hustle, so to speak. I still did here and there, but went the college route, and I did things, like I do oil changes for people for cheap, so they wouldn't have to, or, change out some fan belts. Not exactly proud to say that I was a distributor of a product that was very popular amongst the college crowd for a little while.
I feel you.
So, but whatever. I've always
business was good.
Yeah, and but I got to college, and I studied I followed my heart, and I studied German and philosophy. All right, first is philosophy. That was going to be my degree, and then I figured I'm going to double major with German because I'm not very smart. So I had a double major and more money and time onto the student loans, but no regrets. And because that led to me in this one philosophy class, the professor he loved to tell anecdotes. And he told this great anecdote that, besides being a philosopher and, sort of the creator of modern thought, Socrates was a bricklayer. All right, so he'd lay brick. He'd make his money, and then he would go do what he was passionate about, right? And so for years, I said, okay, I'm going to have my career, whatever that's going to be, and then I'm going to have something on the side that I can, hustle or whatever. Still being in that what I call the Great Depression mindset of that's coming from lack. Just find that good deal and put all your chips in and don't look back, kind of thing. But I took this two-pronged approach all through life since I was about 20. And interestingly enough, I have Googled many times to try to confirm this story that Socrates was a bricklayer, and I cannot find it.
Oh,
so
man.
My whole personal philosophy.
Good.
Yeah. This could be completely based on a lie. I don't know. Or an untruth. But it got me into, I've always kind of, I worked on houses, and while I was in college, I worked for a construction company. We did tons of make-readies on, college apartments and townhomes and houses and stuff. So really, trial by fire with the real estate there, and coming in thinking that, okay, if Socrates laid brick, I can paint, do drywall, and, all these other things. So that was kind of my, my call. I want to go. I said I was going to find a corporate path, but the problem is when you get out of college with a degree in philosophy, unless you go on to get a master's or PhD and try to be a professor, there's really nothing for you. Medical schools like you, law schools like you, but when I got out of school and I got the Houston Chronicle, looked to the one ads, nobody's looking for philosophers,
Right.
So here goes. I go into construction. Background was there. Fortunately, with the degree, I got put into a bit of a management position. Had a couple of people underneath me, and then in the early 2000s, I finally disobeyed my dad, and I went to work in the oil field, which was the greatest job I ever quit. It was certainly the hardest.
No doubt.
It it was good for me because it allowed me to go into insurance adjusting for the oil field, which is sort of what I do now as my primary income. But it it gave a lot of time. You work your ass off, but you have a lot of downtime on the rigs if everything's going smooth.
Was that one of those things too? And I didn't mean to cut you off there,
Sure.
but like I got a couple of friends that did that in the past as well. And first off, you being from Texas, that ain't no joke. You're going out there and it is hot, it's laborish. It's man, I don't know about you, but they were working like I want to say like 7 days on, 80 or 90 hours during that 7 days, and then it'd take a few days off or a week off, and like 7 days on, 7 day off kind of thing. Is that how your schedule was? Or
no, that's what I thought it was going to be. I went phone call to phone call basically. So at the time, you wanted some bombs, some tips for advice and whatnot. If you're going to go into the oil field, if you're going to travel, and your wife, girlfriend, significant other is not used to you being gone, have a conversation right now about how you guys are going to handle it, because it strained the shit out of my marriage.
Don't just wing it
at home.
Huh?
Yeah, well, so I'll give you a prime example. I get a call from my field supervisor. Says, "Hey, we got a job for you. We need you down in South Texas tomorrow, 9 p.m. or whatever." I said, "Okay, great, fine." He goes, I'm not going to give you the jargon, but real simple, easy peasy. You'll be done in 3 or 4 days, right? So I tell the old lady, I was like, "Well, I'll be home in 5 days. Short drill, no big deal." 36 days later, I came home.
Whoa.
And she's rightfully mad. We had plans and, all these things. So that was an eye opener, but I did travel with construction, but nowhere near like I did with the oil field. But you make some good coin.
No doubt. And you got no time to spend it either, while you're working. So you come back.
You're stuck.
You come back with a stack.
Yeah. Well,
I would smooth things over a little bit, huh?
Well, I would, except I was married, so I didn't always come home to a stack, Some new clothes. No, I'm kidding. She was not like that at all. But yeah, it was, I paid off my student loans to the oil field. I paid off a lot of debt, the medical bills for the birth of my first kid, that kind of stuff,
Nice.
That was nice. It was good. But I still had that employee mentality. I came out of the field and knew I was going to take a pay cut because the money's in the field. It's not behind the desk unless you're in the C-suite or upper management. So I took a chance, and this company wanted me to do insurance adjusting, and I said no, because I'm thinking homes and cars. They're Allstate, Liberty and whatnot. And I was like, no. So they brought me in for an interview, and I'm walking down the hallway, and it's like all these oil rigs on fire. Land rigs, offshore, it's just like, it just went right to that guttural, primal 6-year-old boy. Let me burn some shit.
Hell yeah.
Blow it up, And I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. And I told my wife at the time, I was like, I'm going to do this for 1 year, give it a shot, see how it goes. But I'm keeping my options open with my old job so I can go back and, make the money that I know I can after because oil does this, right? You up and down. So,
and by the way, real quickly, about what time or what year was this about?
So I left in 2008. So we're looking around 2005.
Okay.
I was going in 2004. I got married in 2004, doing construction, and then went to Schlumberger for a few years. And so that was right. So I came out of the field in December of 2008, and I'm still adjusting claims. I just don't do it for the W-2 anymore. So I'm an independent contractor right now, which I like because I don't have to do 40 hours. I don't have to go into the office.
Right.
And the company I'm with is totally fine with that. They're really cool. And because Socrates was a bricklayer, insurance adjusting is my bricklaying, and the podcast and real estate is what I like to do. I've always wanted to teach, but nobody's going to say, "Hey, Keith, teach me about philosophy." I mean, if they drink enough at the bar, they'll want to argue at some point, but like, nobody's just going to come out of the blue and say, how do I do this? But once I I found private lending, I could have sort of the best of both worlds, with, being involved in the real estate market here in the Houston area, being a name that's thrown about, "Hey, Keith's a private lender, talk to him," kind of thing. because I tried rent houses that were 50 miles away. And the third time I arrived to see the door hanger swinging from the gas company saying, "We missed you." Cause I had to be there to have someone open up to light the pilot lights and all that stuff,
Right.
I,
Pain in the butt.
exactly. And then, I took my old 401k from my oil field days and construction days, combined them into a self-directed IRA, and sat on it for a few years. I want to say it was around I came out in 08. So it was around 08 I started getting my education around the with the self-directed IRAs, what you can do, and finally I got tired of being, oh, I'm going to do it someday. I'm going to do it someday. I'm going to do it someday. And then the next thing I know, I got a gray hair in my beard. And I'm like, wait a minute, the first step, or the 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step, right? So
that's right.
Boom, started plowing ahead, and really positioned myself well with successful real estate investors, so that I could learn. And my deal was this: I said, I'll charge you no points, and you can have 8% for 6 months, but you take me to the property 3 times, you walk me through it, you show me your business plan, you show me what you did, why you did, what were your lessons from the past, so like, for example, a higher end house would get a higher end crew, for example, right? Whereas if you're just going to kind of hotel something or do a quick owner finance sale, most of the time, and I got a lot into that owner financing, and that's how I found a partner. And so that's how Asset REI came from, is that we partner with that to try to do owner financing for folks.
Sure.
Because who doesn't like quick money, right?
I know, right?
Flipping and all that. And I know you flip, and that's great. And if I could flip now, but when I started, I really didn't have the time. I was bound, because I was an insurance adjuster in the field or inside, but I also traveled a lot, because anytime something blows up or a hurricane hits the Gulf Coast, boom,
You gotta go.
I'm gone for a long time. So it's not easy for me to meet contractors or buyers or sellers or whatever, So anyhow, I digress. But getting back to the, I kind of just lost my point. I'm sorry, I'm getting old.
Oh,
but,
no, you're fine.
Anyway, so doing the private lending thing, and I noticed that, like, just by hanging around and doing deals with people, it gave me credibility with I say old school people, old school, guys that have been around the block quite a bit. Oh, I was talking about, you have to show me your process. That's what I say. So I tell these people, you have to show me this, and they would, and they're like, yeah, sure, come on. And the first guy I ever loaned to, he's like, this is how you're going to stay safe. I'm like, okay. So everything at the self-directed IRA seminar I went to is like, okay, check, going through down the list. Made the loan, almost threw up when I sent the paperwork over to Quest to send the money over. I was so goddamn nervous.
Shit just got real, huh?
And then 28 days later, I get a call from the borrower. I'm like, oh shit. He goes, dude, my girl fucked up, man. I'm sorry. I just put your check in the mail today.
Oh, don't mess with me like that, right?
I was like, dude, and 6 months later, he paid it off, gave me my money back, paid as agreed, and said, hey, I got another property. Great. Same deal applies. Again. 8%, no points. You walk me through. And so that's how I just started doing it, because the self-directed IRA custodians can't give you advice. They can't give you legal advice or investment advice, what they would do, what they wouldn't do. But I can.
That's right.
Right. And I can say, look, I can tell you right now, Trevor, if you're new, don't ever put money in the second position, because I have 18,000 reasons why you should not. And I lost those 18,000. And I got off cheap. That 18 grand was cheap compared to what I've found other people who were first-time private lenders.
I bet.
No
doubt.
Last week, I was at a house with a guy. I was looking at it it's going to come out on the podcast and everything later, but it was just for the podcast lessons learned type of thing. And while we're sitting there, he's like, you want to buy it?
He said, what? I'm sorry?
Yeah. While we're looking through the house, he goes, look, do you want to buy it?
Oh.
I'm like, yeah, I can see some money to be made here. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what, man, this guy got screwed over. I was like, no, I'm like, you go find the highest and best use. So basically what he did was, rather than selling it for a $50,000 loss, or no, more than that. I think he's going to lose about 70 at the end of the day.
That's no
But
fun.
he's partnered with a contractor who specializes here in Houston. They're well known, specializes in rehabs and rentals. That's it. So when you hire them, you get two choices of interior paint, 3 choices of exterior. They keep the price down. They keep it low, investor friendly. And he texted me yesterday. He just signed a contract with them. So I'm really happy that he's going to see some more money. It's going to be a longer duration, but he's going to see, he's not going to lose as much money.
Well, that's good, man. That's a good feeling.
So, and so that's where kind of the whole podcast thing started from. And look, I didn't go to Wharton. I didn't go to NYU like Buffett. I don't have letters at the end of my name, and I suck at math. But I'm, just through my trial and error, I knew that I was going to have to just dig in the dirt, so to speak, for a while and just pound it out. So started the podcast right at the end of 18, got 100 episodes in now. And I'm looking forward to the next 100 to get even deeper in depth, expanding out into, limited partnerships, private entities. I'm proud to say we just closed last week. I got the email confirmation that a limited partnership I invested in closed on a building here in Houston that is a bit of a landmark. It's been a piano store for years. So if you just tell people, the piano store in 59, yeah. I have a sliver of a that now. Very proud to say.
Nice. Real nice, man. Well, one of the things that kind of stuck with me when you were kind of giving us a little bit of your background there and positioning yourself for what you've got going on today is kind of surrounding yourself with the right folks, because before you didn't know what was going on. I remember back then too, man, and I still don't know it all. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm still learning, but hey, I wasn't the smartest guy out there either, man. I sucked at math too. There was every reason in the world to be scared for sure. But I also knew that the quickest way to get where I wanted to be is to put myself around folks that had what I wanted, and were doing what I was doing. How did you go about finding the right folks to position yourself around?
So what I was a rich club wallflower for, I can't remember when I got introduced to which is the Realty Investment Club of Houston, which doesn't exist in the same form as it did when I was there. But that was the place to go in the early 2000s when I started getting an itch, and I started just would talk to people. Hey, have you, who are gurus, who are coaches, mentors, who, basically you just gotta, like any industry, who's an asshole, who screwed you over kind of thing. And so for years I just did that, and I wasn't even conscious about it. It just, it all came from that, someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to finally get the lump out of my throat and do it. It's always that someday. But what I realized when I was doing through all that is I pretty much narrowed it down to 5 people I wanted to loan to real quick. And the first one was actually one of my mentors, my first real estate mentors. We could never come to agree on terms, oddly enough, but we were cool about it. It was like the terms I wanted didn't work for that deal. So what I learned from that was then that's not a deal for me.
Right.
It's just
no hard feelings, nothing.
No,
like
yeah,
that.
Exactly. And I'm like, look, I'm not comfortable. And if you want to be a private, if you want to be anything, I don't care, a doctor, lawyer, anything, learn to say no and be comfortable with saying no and not having to apologize for it. Because real estate investors are extremely convincing and they're always full of their own hype. Oh, this is the perfect flip, man. It'll take 90 days. That's it, man. And
no doubt.
Sometimes it's true.
And it goes from both perspectives, both perspectives too, basically, where, when you're trying to pick up the house, this house is shit, it's got, whatever else. And then 2 weeks later, this is the best deal in the world. You got to jump on it right now.
Exactly. It's going hot. It's not going to stay on the market long. Yeah. It's funny. I always equate real estate investors to the hype guy behind a boxer when he's walking in the ring, yelling at him, getting them all fired up, all that kind of stuff. That's to me what real estate investors are a lot of times.
Sure.
And look, I'm guilty of that, myself. When, my wife at the time was like, she was, I don't know about flipping. I'm like, all right, well, let's house hack. All right, we'll move in. I'll fix it up. I can do the work myself. I'll do it little by little. And by the time we're done building it up, hopefully, God willing, the family outgrows it and we'll, move on to the next house. And so
I still think that that's a great idea as opposed to like, rent, trying to get a rental or something like that as your first flip, because that's now you've got two houses. If you've got a rental going on, so you're responsible for that, right? As opposed to just finding your deal, move in, like you said, house hack it, fix it as you go as quickly as possible, then resell that, take that money to reinvest and do it again, right?
Yeah. And I got lucky on that house hack. That was our first primary residence we bought. I paid $120,000 for it. It was a 3-bedroom, 1.5, just under 1,500 square feet bungalow in Spring Branch, if you're familiar with Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And I fixed up the 3 bedrooms in the hallway, got it all, got the crown molding. I mean, I had it nice. And then we flooded.
Oh,
and
man.
then FEMA gave me a big check because I had flood insurance.
Oh.
I ended up selling that house for $315,000 8 years after I bought it.
Shit.
And that put me into the house I'm in today, which is more house than I wanted, or more area. It's not the area that I wanted because it's expensive, but school districts, happy wife, happy life. So
this is no house hack where you're at right now, then, huh? You're here to stay.
This is going to be my corporate. This is going to be my corporate rental.
Oh, okay.
This is because that's what I found out. That's what it was before we bought it.
Really?
Yeah. So which is good because oil's in the shitter. So now this is going to give me time to save my money, get the pool plastered, and get the new ACs and get it fixed up, and then I fully intend to lease it out as a master lease, not a master lease, but you rent this house, your yard service, your pool, everything is done. So any expats coming in for the oil industry, they're not used to the Houston humidity, but they've got a pool and a hot tub and a big backyard to barbecue in.
Do you really get used to that though? I always tell folks, because I'm up here in Dallas, of course, and man, it's hotter than shit up here. We probably don't have the humidity quite as bad as what you guys have.
It's just a matter of degrees.
It's here, and man, like folks ask me, from other states and stuff, how long did it take you to get used to that? Man, you don't get used to it. It rolls around and it gets hot again and it sucks. Yeah. I still love Texas. It's the greatest place in the world to me. I don't envision myself ever going anywhere else. If I did, it'd probably be Florida near the beach or something like that. Mm. But you don't get used to it. You just deal with it, man. Right. And so good old Texas heat.
I have a 10-year-old who wants to go outside and play. And that's all I did when I was a kid. Like our parents were like, you go outside, get out of my hair, come home when the street lights come on, but we were just all right in front of the street. I mean, it wasn't like we were gone, but that was kind of the thing. And I'm like, how can these kids do this? I'm like, how did I do it? You don't know anybody. You grew up with it, right? It's like, it's the equivalent of shoveling snow in Buffalo, New York. It's, or not the equivalent, but I mean, that's their chore. And that's down here in Houston. It's, we get out of the shower and we immediately start sweating after we dry ourselves off. The humidity kicks back and you're just sweating. But our winters are beautiful.
No, that's true. Our winters are like falls, kind of.
Yeah, it's like summer and October. It's like hot as hell in October. That's about it.
That's true, man. That's true. So I'm just curious, obviously you've been in the private lending, for quite some time now. You've told us a little bit about the good things that have happened. I'm just curious, man. Give us a little fun nightmare, or, a situation that occurred where, that wasn't quite as fun to deal with.
Okay. So let me tell you about my second lien. Right. I had just put myself out as I'm a private lender. Right. So I'm not going to lie. I was peacocking a little bit at the REIAs, no, your project is no good for me. Yes, I'm interested. Call me. And this one lady's engineer in the oil field. So like, all right, I'm comfortable already. I know she does. And she said, hey, I want to, she had a contract on a house that she wanted to flip. And the numbers weren't right. And she said, well, would you put a second on my rental property? So I looked at it. I was like, yeah, okay. And one of the things I did was she did show me a lot of stuff, but I didn't verify the numbers. And let me just real quick. Those are my hashtags. Never trust, always verify, my money, my terms.
That's right.
This story is what helped me create these slogans. So everything's great. She's like, oh, I don't want to pay monthly. Can I just pay on the quarter? It's like, sure. And she's like, and I looked at the house that she was going to buy and flip, which didn't sell. And then about 3 weeks before my loan was due, or her loan to me was, my loan, back to me was due, she sent me an email saying, I haven't sold the other house. Can I get an extension? I said, okay, that's fine. So I gave her an extension for 3 months. And then at the first of the year, the other house still hadn't sold. So I started looking at my other options, which I should have done prior to, but this is the linear aspect of the story and how it happened. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at my options. What can I foreclose? And so I had a realtor friend of mine just run a quick CMA, competitive market analysis on, which I don't bring CMAs into my underwriting or my due diligence, but it's a great place to start. Give me a ballpark. There's no way in hell I would make any money if I foreclosed on that house, and it would cost me money to foreclose my second position. So long story short, the house did selling. She did pay me back. She sent me an email stating that, and she paid interest, for those times. I didn't charge any penalties. I may have charged an extra point. Oh, I did. Yeah, I charged an extra point because there was a point on the back end of the loan. But long story short, anyway, so she said I owed her $100, or my IRA owed her $100, and I was, and this might be
really.
I was like, I'm not even going to respond. Like
after all that, you doing her
comes back, I will give her $100 cash. I'll put $100 bill in front of her and just say, just go away. But she hasn't come back. But yeah, it just that kind of I was mad at her, but after I thought about it long enough, I had to be mad at myself. It's like I told my kids when my dog eats their shoes. If you leave shoes out, you can't be mad if a dog acts like a dog. And this was a relatively young investor, who wasn't the savviest, but it was smart. Don't get me wrong, but didn't have the experience, and got herself into a situation that, the way I looked at it, held my money hostage after that first year.
For sure.
I couldn't work it. And I had, and people were coming to me and, hey, and I'm like, it was only $30,000, but at the same time, I could have gotten into some other vehicles. So for me, it was an opportunity cost.
Yeah.
That was my second position. First horror story, which is not really a horror story. I mean,
it wasn't as bad. It was
skinned my knee, So while I served for a couple of years as a treasurer on the board of the Realty Investment Club of Houston. And that gave me a lot of exposure to other people in the community as well, which is great. Because I also went into, I got into Toastmasters. The Rich Club had a Toastmasters club that was just for real estate investors. So when I started, I didn't like speaking to sellers, so I'd say, hi, I'd like to buy your house. I'm not selling. Okay, bye. So I took Toastmasters to get more verbose and everything. I'm already a class clown, but I just needed to clean it up. So that was nice. Met a lot of people, and then found someone who I trusted like a lot. And this was the second time. So like you would think I learned my lesson with the second position lien, but since this was a friend of mine, I was like, yeah, fuck it. What's the house worth? What do you owe on it? And what do you need? It was a Hurricane Ike, or was it Harvey? I can't. It was a hurricane house. Needed drywall. It had already been gutted, stripped down, yada yada yada. And again, the ARV that was spouted to me, I didn't. I did look it up real quick and see what some houses were for sale for the asking price, but then nothing happens for 6 months. I see this person at a meeting. Hey, what's up with that house? You got it ready to sell? Yeah. Just contacted the realtor, and we're going to list it, in next month. I was Great. Didn't hear nothing. So 2 months later, I had, for my day job, I had to drive down to near the house to pick up somebody from the airport. I got there a little early. I said, hey, let me drive by. I drove by. Nothing's been done on the house.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, okay. So I text. 2 days later, get a reply. Hey, yeah, sorry, blah, blah, blah. Got something else in the fire. I'm like, oh, shit. All right, here come the excuses, basically. A week later, I get a call from the trustee on my deed of trust saying the first position loan is foreclosing. Okay. Can I speak to that attorney? Yep. Here's their number. All right. Call the attorney for the first position. How much is it going to cost to get this loan squared away? $45,000, which can only come out of my IRA because I can't do any personal mix. Well, actually, no, I could have. Had I had the money, I'd have to split that $45,000 between me personally and my IRA, but I didn't have money in the IRA to do that. And the way I looked at it is, even if I could get the money personally or had it, it's just throwing good money after bad at this point, because the property was nowhere worth near anything that I was either led on to believe or brought myself to believe. It just wasn't there. So those are $18,000 and 18,000 reasons I tell people never to get into a second position lien unless you do it. Have a mentor, and you've got to buy right, and you've got to buy dirt cheap, and you got to buy, and that's if it's already existing. But if you go into the second, you can be safe in the second position, but most people don't know how. So that's why stay away from it, especially if you're starting out. If you're old school and got some, dirt under your nails and some scabs on your elbows and your knees, then I could say, yeah, look at these possibilities, because second liens can be lucrative. But at that point, you're really betting on the jockey and not the horse at that point, right? So the first position, you're looking only at the horse. If this house craps out, the deal craps out, can I sell this house, get my money back, make myself whole? When you're in a second position, you're like, man, I hope that jockey knows what the hell he's doing. Right?
Man, I tell you what, and I'm really glad that you shared those experiences with us. Obviously there were a huge lesson learned, from your standpoint. Sometimes you got to take that sting in order to remember it. But for the folks that are listening in right now, man, those are some great experiences that they can hear, prior to going down that path themselves. You probably prevented a couple of mistakes there and saved a few folks.
I hope so.
There. So, man, that's awesome. One of the things I wanted to kind of bring up, and that I always like to ask our guests, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, that you're a family man. Obviously you've got a lot of things going on with business, and you stay busy, and you found a lot of success, and there's a certain amount of time that has to go into your businesses in order to keep that success and the momentum going. How do you take that and also balance it and be a dad or a husband and all of that? Where do you find your balance there?
Divorce. Because we are going through an amicable one right now, but yeah, okay. Which people are like, oh my God, it really is. It's a short-term pain for the long-term happiness of all four of us, really. And we've spent the last year with the kids, so they're on board now. And we're hoping, the ex just put I just scanned her rental application to rent a house literally around the corner where my kids can walk between the houses here. And we're going to stay here until both graduate high school, and then we'll, split off and do our thing. But when it, I'd say my day job is no different than anyone else's. The more responsibility you take on, the more fires you find yourself having to put out as they flare up, and the travel part makes it hard, especially when my kids are like, Daddy, don't go, we want you to stay, and they pull on those heartstrings. But then I remind them, because Daddy travels, because I'm away. And I was in London for my oldest birthday a few months ago, before COVID, right when COVID started. Actually, I was over there and I missed it. She was upset. I obviously, I understand, but I came home and I said, look, I forget what we got for her birthday, but something she wanted, spoiled her. Fine. I said, look, it's real simple. I go, mommy and daddy work hard. If mommy and daddy work hard, we get to live in a house with a pool in this neighborhood with your friends, all that. If I could just do 9 to 5, and spend the rest of my time hanging with you guys, taking you to soccer practice, and we don't go to places like Colorado or Cancun, and we don't live here, and we live in a neighborhood more like the one that I grew up in, which is nothing wrong with it. It's just, and believe me, on the cash flow going out every month, I'd rather live on the street I grew up on. Because my parents are still there, my sister's in that neighborhood, so the family's there, but it really just comes down to trying to manage other people's expectations. So for the day job now, if somebody wants something tomorrow, I try, 24 hours, can I get 48? Whether or not I need it, it doesn't matter. I just try to make holes. And in the evenings, like Wednesdays, when we were married together, Mondays were my wife's night out. She got to go out and she went to a class at the gym or something, or go out with her girlfriends. Wednesdays was my night. Most of the big realty meetings were on Wednesday here in Houston. So that was my night, to go out. And then for the kids, it was just, everything else would revolve around their schedule. So when the soccer games or the piano lessons and all that, it just went on the calendar without question. And I just had to find a way, to work around it. Now the kids are a little older. They're not so, they still need to be chauffeured. I do a lot better for myself than I ever thought I would when I was in college, but I can't afford Uber for my kids yet. just for them. I would give them their own Uber driver if I could, or just their own Uber account, so I wouldn't have to drive them everywhere. But it's that. And then daddy-daughter night, at least once a month, try to take, each of my daughter out just for dinner or something that only she wants to do. And my kids are, so different, like most people, their kids are different. So I just try to make time and let them know that when I get ticked off at them, try not to act like my parents did, but stern. I would still be stern, but at the same time, I try to look, and it doesn't always happen. Okay, I can't tell you as a dad how many times I've damn near cracked a tooth because I was gritting my teeth so goddamn hard. But
hey, man, we all let it go every now and then. Sometimes
it's true
good
story
for us. Sometimes we feel bad about it. You know what I mean? But we got to let it go every now and then. You know what I mean,
dude? So this is not a flattering story, but my next door neighbor one day he tells me, he's like, "Yeah, I heard you the other night. I had an argument with the wife on the back porch, and it just ripped my heart out." I was like, "Oh fuck, I was an asshole," And I just felt I just felt like dust at that point. And immediately after that, I went and said, "Look, I just talked to the neighbor. He said this. I'm really sorry. I see why we're getting divorced and all this." But I told him, I said, "Hey man, look, I'm sorry you had to hear that." And he just chucked me on the shoulder. He's like, "Hey man, it happens to everyone. Don't worry about it."
No doubt. No doubt. Man, it feels good to hear that too, right? To know that you're not alone.
It does, because I'm like, why can't I make this work? Like, why are we having these issues? And I thought I did A, B, and C. I thought she did A, B, and C. Like, why are we? And look, we're all humans, man. Everyone loves, everyone hates. And the more you love someone, the more you're gonna hate them for that little thing, the way they pick their teeth, or the way they do this, or it's gonna happen. Sure. It's all gonna happen. And you just, my big thing, I've been trying to be more self-aware because I wasn't very aware and been mindful in my marriage, So that's been my crux now is, and look, I'm not excited to be single in my mid 40s. And yes, I know there's Match and Tinder, but the way I look at it is the only thing I'm going to find out, and this is a very pessimistic view, but it's more of a joke, but it does hold some water, is, the odds are I'm just going to find somebody else's problem, problem wife, and I'm going to be someone else's problem husband, like they're just getting problems. But it's, right now I don't look for, I'm not even worried about the whole dating scene. I got 2 girls I got to raise to make sure they don't marry somebody like me. And I've got my goals. And I've got 4 more years. I have a certain monetary goal I want to hit by 50. And I'm a good 99.5% away from that. I'm a long way away. So that's
You got it though, man. You know, it starts with the plan, right? You know, I put myself on a 5-year plan about a year and a half ago as well. Not so much that, you know, 5 years from then I was going to stop working, but 5 years from then I was going to have enough money in the bank to be able to make the decisions that I wanted. You know what I
right.
mean? If it was that I wanted to continue to work, fine. If I wanted to do this, I could do that. There would be enough in the bank that I could make some different decisions uh, as to having to, as opposed to having to, but wanting to. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
no, exactly. My
I'm
my day job, I quit, with people over one claim I have right now is worth several $100 million. And I like going into those meetings.
oh yeah.
No, it's not Yankee Stadium, but there is a level of, a seriousness there that the insured always has. And then I come in, I'm like, look, it's not my money. I'm an independent. All I care about is the facts and the truth, like what happened, what it cost, and adjust it from there.
For sure.
But yeah, that's why I don't do home and auto. I always tell people when it comes to insurance, I don't deal with feelings or soft tissues. I like dumb iron and equipment because they don't talk back. They don't have hospital bills. So that's but you get in these big we're down here in Texas, on the Gulf Coast, these huge petrochemical refineries and complexes. Every now and again something goes bad, and there's especially the negotiating, when you're trying to negotiate the end of the claim, is a lot like a flipper trying to negotiate no points on a rehab loan. It's very similar. I mean, okay, so the point's only $5,000 in this loan, and this guy we're arguing over 50 million over here. It's the same principles. It's just extra zeros. That's it. It's the same principle, But anyway, I don't know. Did I answer your question? I just go down.
Yeah, no, definitely, no doubt. So let me ask you this, man, is that for the folks that are listening right now that are intrigued with what you've got going on, that are either wanting to get started possibly in private lending or have just gotten started, but they're having trouble getting traction. What are some big tips or advice that you would give to those folks to really get that momentum going and get the ball rolling?
Into private lending, I would say this is the bad thing is normally my go-to messages go to REIA meetings. Thank you, COVID. So at this point, I would be as active as possible online with whatever community you're in. And I would definitely start local, right? Do not lend in Illinois. Sorry, people in Illinois, but I can't prove, but I can't verify, but I've heard horror stories about Crook County up there. So, but I would start in your backyard, right? And even though we don't have RIAs and everything, it doesn't mean you can't email folks that or have conversations with folks or do Zoom meetings, and just put the word out that, look, I would like to get into this private lending thing. I'm new. I want to learn. And I would just start meeting people and try to figure out who are the whales in your community. When I mean the whales, I mean, they usually are older men. Some of them are usually larger and they have silver hair, but they've been doing this for 20, 30 years. And you go find that guy, right? Don't tell me you're a private lender. Just start chit chatting with them, like something just see, try to see how his personality or her personality is. And just start to try to cultivate relationships, right? And the whole time in the background, save that money, whether it's an old 401k or you're stashing it away, just keep building your reserves up because it's easier to be a lender with more money than less money.
It's true.
But it doesn't mean if you only have 5 or 10 grand, doesn't mean you can't partner with other people on a loan and still make your cut, right? But it's just easier. The larger stash you have, the better. It's easy to be the banker when you have a lot more money, right? So
that's true.
Yeah, start in there, go for the silver hair. And avoid the whole, hey, can I buy you a coffee and pick your brain kind of thing. Like bring some value, it's like, hey, you got, you're a landlord, you're a flipper or whatever, bring them a wholesale deal, right? If you've heard about it, right? And you can't move on it, or, recommend an attorney, ask them, cause look, private lenders need attorneys, appraisers, and, escrow. No servicing companies. Those are your 3 main ones that you need more people, but those are to get by. You just need those 3 and talk to them about, try to bring some value in. If you can't, tell me, hey, look, I'd like to be a private lender. I'd like to talk about your strategies, your business plans. and go low and slow. And if they push hard, back off immediately, and just stay, and if you can find the best thing you can do, actually, it's just struck in my head, is start local, but also there are so many more self-directed IRAs custodians out there today than when I started. And most of them do a ton of education, which is so webinars. And a lot of them are doing, they would teach classes, but now they're just doing it, over online. And those, if they're taught by they're usually taught by the custodian, but sometimes they'll bring other folks in, and it's usually really good information, your due diligence. And it's also going to be sort of, hopefully you can find people in that area and connect with them and just start talking to them,
Sure.
Just
and I tell you, social media right now, we've got this little thing called social media. It's just sure made it really easy to connect with a lot of folks. You know what I mean? Somebody's going to be there and want to help you out and want to mentor you and stuff.
Absolutely. And deals
but you don't get that. They're not going to reach out to you. You got to reach out to them, and hustle and show interest and passion and so forth. And
if you want to be a private lender, and this isn't for now, but once, and us, we're here in Texas here, early July, we're going back up with the COVID crap, but hopefully one day this will all be over and we can go back to our REIA meetings and our meetups. And when you do, not so much the meetups, or even the meetups, but whoever's running those meetings, volunteer. Get there early and put out chairs. That's how you can bring value, right? Just be of service and be seen, right? And that is going to help you gain more attention and some credibility. Like, I don't know what he is or she's like as a lender, but hey, they're here every Monday and every month helping doing this or whatever. That's a great way, because one thing I learned in the first mastermind I ever took was people say knowledge is power. That's not exactly right. It's proximity to the knowledge is power. So if you surround yourself, like you said earlier, surround yourself with people that have done this, been there, and they're experienced. That's where your power comes from. And it's finding these people, and you find them at the local meetups and REIAs. You find it by volunteering and just reaching out, like you said, in social media, go into real estate groups, and say, hey, don't say you're a private lender because you're going to get nailed. With no doubt. Hey, I've got this. I've got 90% LTV. Well, what are your points? And what are your? It's like no. But yeah, start with that and just get it out there. Just put it out there. This is what I'd like to do, but also say, I plan to take a very conservative approach, because that's the only way you stay really safe. Is but you're going to find somebody with a deal at 40%, 50% LTV. From, an old gray-haired person who's done it before. Those are great to get into. And then the same thing like I did. Okay. I was wanting 12 points or 12. Yeah, I'd love 12 points.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be nice, huh?
That would limit me to 6% here for usury in Texas. But anyway, say be willing to drop down your terms, but they have to walk you through. They hold your hand through the property, right? The first property I ever put a first lien on so that the realtor or the real estate investor could then sell it with owner financing, wrap it and sell it. I almost vomited when I walked in the door because nobody had flushed the toilet in many months, and it all dried up, and just go from there.
Been there.
$24,000. Again, I'm like, I can't believe this. I'm sending $24,000 for something I wouldn't even sleep in. 6 months later, I drove by. It's got a new carport, new roof, new siding, new landscaping. Looks beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And somebody just paid to increase the value of the asset I have a loan on.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
Man, that's a good feeling. Beautiful.
But yeah, awesome, back, just get out there, be known, let it, and find out ask who's a private lender, and then chat them up. How'd you become a private lender? Why did you become a private lender? I became a private lender because I didn't want another job. I was already laying brick, so to speak. But I didn't want, I needed more time for travel and everything else. So private lending just fit right. I keep my corporate job. I kept my 401k. I kept my insurance while I was doing all that. But the whole time, over those years, I'm just, next thing you know, people are like, hey, would you speak about private lending? I'm like, yeah, what do you want me to talk about? I'm like, whatever you do. And I never thought about sitting down and like outlining my process of my due diligence and, who I say no. I say no 90% of the time to the people that come up to me, mostly because I don't know them. And how can I be a private lender if I don't know you?
Right.
If I don't know the person I'm loaning money to, then I'm just a hard money lender. That's it.
You're right.
So private lender, I like to I'm in the back pocket of a few people that, when they call, I say, well, I don't know. Well, yes, I do have that much, and that's how I got into the commercial deal here, in which it just kept getting better because we bought it right as Corona was hitting. So our terms of the deal got even sweeter as time went on. And it's not office space, so I'm not worried about that because I know that's going to hit a downturn here pretty soon. But it's just a simple email of somebody I know, love, and trust, and I've learned. Actually, I'll tell you, it was Stephen Kaufman. He's on the episode 1 and 100. He owns Zeus, mortgage lending and Zeus Equity. Zeus Equity, and it was his project, and he's the sponsor. And I will be honest, I did not do my normal due diligence, especially on a commercial property. I said, well, I like this. I like the horse, but I love this jockey. Boom. I said, how much do I have to put in? He goes, you can put in whatever you want, as little or as much as you want. I said, I'm going to put in as much as I can.
No doubt. And it gets that way, when you establish relationships and folks that you trust, and after doing, several deals and so forth together, you find those folks and those people that you like to work with. I know it's that way with me and my buyers when I wholesale a deal or it's something like that, man, it doesn't take me very long. I just go right to them. Hey, here you go. It's exactly what you want. Here's your deal. Like, give me that. You know what I mean? And it just works, and it's fun to be able to help each other out because we both benefit. And now we're friends and all that stuff too. Right. So
exactly.
For sure, man.
It's
well, Keith, I'd definitely like to say thank you for coming by today and sharing your words of wisdom and bringing value and giving us some tips and some secrets to private lending and real estate and so forth, man. What I'd like to know, man, is how can folks find you and get in touch with you?
You can go to privatelenderpodcast.com. You can contact me there or just shoot me an email, info@privatelenderpodcast.com. And I am on Facebook, but it's, I don't remember what it is, but just look up Private Lender Podcast on social media. I have some fan pages, and then there'll be links to my personal page. Or if you just go to the podcast website, privatelenderpodcast.com, there's links to all my social there. And I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, especially states similar to Texas. Sorry if you want to lend in New York, I'm not your guy.
Right.
But and there's a few other states, but that's mostly it. But yeah, just connect with me that way. And the podcast is on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, all the normal usual suspects there.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks again. Thanks for coming on, guys. You all folks be sure to check out Keith, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.
We're going to stay on for a minute.